Tonight on 24, Trump says either Tehran agrees or Washington finishes the job.
Well, one reason, very strongly, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
The U.S. president's renewed warning about targeting energy infrastructure and power plants in Iran if negotiations with the Islamic Republic fail. Slogans of vengeance against the U.S. and Israel at Khamenei's funeral and reactions to Ahmadinejad's presence at the gathering, coinciding with the absence of former presidents. Media reports on the formation of a special IRGC unit with the aim of killing Trump. Israel's Channel 14 says Mexican criminals want to help Tehran in killing Trump.
It was an opportunity for me to speak with the parliament members of this country regarding any possible support we expect from the free world, especially.
And Prince Reza Pahlavi's meeting in the Dutch parliament to garner global support for the people of Iran. He spoke about the necessity of the free world supporting the protesters.
From the Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad.
Hello and good evening to Iran international viewers in Iran and around the world. Hours ago, the U.S. president, emphasizing that the Islamic Republic should never acquire nuclear weapons, stated that the United States will either reach an agreement with the Islamic Republic or Washington will finish the job. Donald Trump, meanwhile, said he prefers disputes to be resolved through diplomacy, but warned that the U.S. has the capability to destroy Iran's vital infrastructure, including bridges, the energy grid, and power plants, in a short period of time.
Look, oil is now at a level that
Oil prices have dropped to levels even lower than before the operation began. We gained significant concessions that must be maintained. Crucially, Iran will not acquire nuclear weapons. While the nuclear dust seems settled, enriched material is being managed. I'm not looking for regime change, though events themselves are a kind of regime change. The first regime is gone, the second as well. I believe the third regime is more logical, but we'll have to see its future. In any case, we will win. Either we reach an agreement or we finish the job, and finishing it isn't hard either. I prefer we reach an agreement because I don't want 91 million people to get hurt.
My colleague Mariam Rahmati has joined us from the United Nations headquarters in New York. Mariam, while it seems we're currently in a break between negotiations because of Ali Khamenei's funeral, Mr. Trump is repeating the same things again, that his preference is diplomacy, but if it doesn't work, he's ready to pull the trigger again.
Exactly, Fardad. Today, Donald Trump was speaking in the White House Rose Garden and once again warned the Islamic Republic. His address, coinciding with Khamenei's funeral, urged them to use this critical opportunity for diplomacy. Donald Trump stated that either we reach a comprehensive agreement with Iran, or, in his words, we finish the job. The U.S. president emphasized that the United States must secure a proper agreement with the Islamic Republic to unequivocally prevent them from acquiring nuclear weapons, a key foreign policy objective. He also added that the United States has reached agreements with the Islamic Republic on many contentious issues, matters which many political observers believe Tehran would never concede. It was widely thought the Islamic Republic would be unyielding on such core disagreements, making any accord seem improbable. Anyway, Donald Trump added that they must now observe what transpires next, emphatically reiterating that in any scenario, the U.S. and his government will ultimately prevail in this war, whether through positive diplomatic outcomes or less desirable means. Yet, what precise achievements Donald Trump refers to, or the specific nature of these breakthroughs, remains largely unclear. To many commentators, these ongoing negotiations have, to date, shown little discernible progress or concrete results, casting considerable doubt on the claimed successes. If Donald Trump is referring to the Strait of Hormuz, it's crucial to understand that this vital waterway has not fully reopened yet. Ships still cannot actually pass through the Strait of Hormuz due to ongoing risks. Even CENTCOM itself today released a report and a statement confirming they are actively demining in the Strait of Hormuz, an operation that has actually been continuously ongoing since April. Therefore, many ships still don't dare, Fardad, to safely navigate through the Strait of Hormuz. And another achievement that actually the Americans were saying before, and Donald Trump himself had added previously, he had said that the Iranians agreed for IAEA inspectors to visit Iran's nuclear facilities. But then Kalibov came and said that the Islamic Republic will not allow agency inspectors to visit Iran's main and destroyed sites. The U.S. representative, right here, told me 2 days ago that actually the Islamic Republic has agreed to this. Anyway, it's still not clear where these crucial negotiations and indirect talks, which continued last week in Doha between the Islamic Republic and the United States of America through dedicated mediators, have currently led. Is the next meeting actually going to be held? We're seeing various reports in Reuters and other prominent networks suggesting they might want to meet again, potentially in Pakistan, in the coming week. It appears that the crucial indirect U.S.-Iran negotiations have practically entered a temporary but significant pause. The key question now is whether this halt will be brief, allowing for a swift return to the table, or if the underlying and long-standing differences are so significant they render further talks and engagement impossible. After only a few brief initial talks, discussions have entirely ceased. This pause is attributed either to Khamenei's funeral or, more concerningly, to the deep-seated and unresolved disagreements persisting between the two sides. But right now, what the media is saying is that the Islamic Republic wants all sanctions lifted and blocked funds released. This is while the United States of America wants these sanctions and these funds to actually be released step by step after the United States of America reaches the agreement it wants. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the coming days. Fardad.
Thank you, Mariam Rahmati. From the UN headquarters in Manhattan, New York, Shahid Saleh, an international relations and Iran affairs analyst, has also joined us from Calgary. Mr. Shahid Saleh, during this negotiation breather, it doesn't seem like anything significant has happened, or if it has, it's at least hidden from public view. How do you evaluate Mr. Trump's remarks, where he's once again threatening to destroy infrastructure?
Yes, we need to consider two issues here, Mr. Farahzad. First, the Islamic Republic sits at this negotiation table. I mentioned this on another one of your programs as well. Because of the achievements they've had in this war, not militarily, but strategically and geopolitically in the region, their dominance over the Strait of Hormuz has given them a strange and unusual confidence, which itself hinders any kind of negotiation. I mean, they think, and of course this thought of theirs isn't too far from reality, they think they've gained the upper hand by controlling energy prices and, consequently, the US economy. As a result, they're speaking very, very much from a position of power, and have become extremely inflexible. This is one issue. A significant problem is that this system in absolutely no manner prioritizes or cares about national interests or broader societal welfare. Its complete disregard means it tolerates suffering significant financial losses or extensive damages due to its behavior, as long as its own fundamental existence and internal survival are not jeopardized. Therefore, it is exceptionally challenging to negotiate or engage in any meaningful dialogue with this system right now. But let's hear what Mr. Trump is saying. Among the options Trump has before him, one is what he said, that to bring down this system, they've really now come to the conclusion that there's no other choice but to destroy all the infrastructure of that country. For example, if they just hit the southern part, because about 70% of the country's electricity is supplied through gas turbines there, through the southern part, well, this system would collapse, but then, well, the country would also fall apart. This thing Trump is saying, 91 million people. Well, that's true. I mean, if they want to proceed with this method, what about these 90 million people? The last thing they want, with this system's troubles already in place, is for the infrastructure in that country to also be destroyed. That's an issue. Islamic Republic has no regional involvement. That hesitation, I mean, it's completely crossed those red lines and attacks regional countries if it saw its own existence in danger. Even Qatar, which, has friendly relations with the Islamic Republic, they hit and destroyed its gas facilities, critical infrastructure on which Qatar had spent a staggering $20 billion just 2 years ago. Or at least, they caused serious damage to these vital assets. The other issue is that the oil problem won't be solved at all if Mr. Trump gets involved in this, hoping that the oil issue, the passage of oil, and all that will be freed up, which, well, it won't, because the Strait of Hormuz, at the very least, will become unstable. Now, even if it's not closed, at the very least, it will become unstable. And another issue that's in front of Trump is the sanctions. Can he even pull himself back from these negotiations and continue the sanctions? Again, I said, unfortunately, this war caused some red lines to be broken by the Islamic Republic, which has made things very difficult. If before, Mr. Hossein Shariat Madari would just write, "We will close the Strait of Hormuz," now the Islamic Republic has come to this conclusion. If the sanctions become such that it can't sell oil, it will again resort to these same actions and either destabilize or close the Strait of Hormuz. In any case, the price of energy and oil will constantly go up in the world and create problems for Trump himself, his government, and America. Mr. Trump, unfortunately, really doesn't have good options, in my opinion, and the Islamic Republic, with the confidence it has gained and the unimportance of national interests, sits at this negotiation table, and the situation has become very, very complicated. We just have to hope that somehow they come to terms with each other in these negotiations, so that at least the people of Iran are under less pressure with this strange and bizarre economic situation the country has found itself in.
How much do you think the regime change card can still be used, whether through military action or intelligence work on the ground?
Well, this is exactly what Mr. Trump is implicitly saying, If the goal is truly to bring this regime down, then they apparently have to hit these so-called infrastructures, which are fundamental to its operation. The 39-day war, at least, seemingly demonstrated there's no other solution but to systematically destroy this infrastructure, to bring the entire system down. But critically, bringing down these infrastructures means bringing down the whole country, leading to its complete collapse. This severe consequence makes the choice a profoundly difficult one for Trump, his administration, and anyone contemplating such action.
In the early days, Mr. Shahid Salis had started hitting the political body to hit the infrastructures more. Can't that political stripping lead to regime change?
Well, we saw, didn't we, what effect Mr. Farhad had. I'd say at least it was about 4 or 5 years that even with the guys, the analysts who were inside Iran, they were arguing that if Khamenei's foot is removed from the picture, this system will collapse. I was saying, this system, no, it's not like that. These guys have created an establishment. Nothing will happen with Khamenei's death. Now, as you say, they hit the first ring, and the second ring too. Now they say 300 people. These are the things the Islamic Republic itself says, 300 military and non-military leaders of the country were killed. Well, we see now they've gained the upper hand in the Strait of Hormuz. They're also bullying, and they've created problems for the world. Now, if they kill another group again, in your opinion, with the situation we've seen, will this system come down? I don't think so. I don't think they'll achieve results this way. Thank you. If I may, an explanation from an international relations analyst.
Go ahead, briefly.
Yeah, let me give an explanation. The Islamic Republic has encountered a problem selling oil, and its problem is a fundamental one. Oil is almost not being bought from the Islamic Republic. China has been the only customer for these. Right now, the report that Bloomberg has released, based on Vortex's calculations, is that about 68 million barrels of oil are floating at sea near China, and there's currently no buyer for it either. Those types of refineries, the ones that were private, they're not buying oil right now. It's both a sanctions issue and an economic issue inside China. It's found itself in a strange situation. Mr. Paknejad went to India last week. Maybe he could get a contract with India there, find an agreement so they could sell oil, and he didn't get any results there either. They didn't get anywhere. I want to say this is also one of the problems the Islamic Republic has found itself in right now. The sanctions have been completely lifted now, but they're having a lot of trouble selling oil.
Thank you, Shahid Salis, International Relations and Iran Affairs Analyst from Canada. The fourth day of Ali Khamenei's funeral in Tehran concluded with officials present chanting strong anti-US and Israel slogans. His coffin was then transferred to Qom. A ceremony where Mojtaba Khamenei's absence continues to draw attention. Meanwhile, the Dowlat-e-Bahar telegram channel, close to former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has published images of his presence at this ceremony. In other published images, participants held banners with slogans of "Revenge on Trump."
This is truly my body and profoundly my soul, forever intertwined.
Iranian officials, including the Supreme National Security Council, have recently vowed revenge on the U.S. and Israel for Khamenei's blood. Simultaneously, Israel's Channel 14 TV, citing intelligence sources, reported the Quds Force formed a secret Mokhtar unit. This unit allegedly aims to establish operational bases near U.S. soil, with the primary goal of assassinating Donald Trump and several senior American officials. Jaber Rajabi, political analyst, has joined us. Mr. Rajabi, how much can one really buy into such reports, considering that the Iranian side is, after all, negotiating with the U.S.? And I know, and you know too, that the potential assassination of a U.S. president would pretty much be like a suicide operation for any government.
Greetings, dear Mr. Fardad Aziz. You know, of course, even right now, the Islamic Republic, well, this whole funeral and all this commotion, after 4 months that it's dragged on, they've spent billions, maybe even billions of dollars. But if we look at the whole thing, it hasn't really worked out for them yet. I mean, they haven't been able to play with the emotions of their supporters that way and all that. Why? This whole situation is a big question. You know, he hasn't even been buried yet, showing disrespect. Ghalibaf and the deputy, undoubtedly present when Ali Khamenei's killing was ordered, are negotiating. This blatant duality is for their own people. These words are crafted to sell to their own folks. You know, I mean, if you look at it, the issue has become really ridiculous, even for supporters. From Qasem Soleimani's harsh revenge to each and every one of these things. I mean, each of these could have, if it had happened separately, brought about an event. But when we put all these things together, we see that the Islamic Republic goes and negotiates, talks with those people. Even if Trump had agreed for them to come to Switzerland, we know that the Iranians, the supporters of the Islamic Republic, kept pushing, saying, "Hey, sir, what if Trump comes?" In their own minds, they could put on a show with Trump there. But we know that even Ghalibaf and many others, even Ghalibaf spoke with Trump on the phone. Trump himself said, he said, "Someone called me and said, I'm Muhammad." Many things that the Islamic Republic was saying back then. Like, no, they're lying. We didn't talk at all. We didn't negotiate. Every single one of them turned out to be true. So that's why this duality that's emerging, things are getting out of their hands. That's why they're saying these things to sell to their supporters. Look, this duality, this contradiction among a lot of this small community, this very dwindling community of Islamic Republic supporters, which is getting smaller every day. The fuel for this small community for them has been these very slogans, these very words. All of this has now been exposed. Now it's clear that all of this was for nothing, for naught. They're making deals, they're having discussions. They're very proud that, you know, maybe they'll even come here and invest someday. They're talking about financial deals with them. I mean, these people, in my opinion, this issue is completely dismissed. They themselves know that taking revenge on Trump is pretty much an impossible thing, even if you think for 1% that they could assassinate Trump, which they tried before Trump's presidency. They were afraid of this very nightmare. But now, I don't think they'll do that because they know it'll get much harder after that. There's been a bit of realism among the military and political leaders of the Islamic Republic regarding their own power. That's why, you know, you see them getting involved in some places, backing down in others. That's why I don't think they'll do something like that. But as I said, well, many of those to whom they've sold these ideas for years, they've executed many people under the pretext that these are Americans, these are Israelis, and they had to go and negotiate with them. Well, obviously this creates a contradiction that they're trying to resolve by convincing them with these words.
Mr. Rajabi, please stay with us. At this funeral ceremony for Khamenei, a number of participants alongside Masoud Pezeshkian also chanted "Death to the Compromiser."
Death to the oppressor, be it the Shah, the leader, or any other tyrannical ruler.
Mr. Rajabi, in your opinion, do these disagreements have the potential to turn into a political crisis, or is it more of a burden for the Islamic Republic?
No, look, this disagreement has become much deeper than these talks. Look, Ali Khamenei was the string that held them all together, like prayer beads. These are mafia groups that have been on the same ship for years, and Ali Khamenei was the captain of that ship. On this ship, they committed whatever corruption they wanted, did whatever they wanted, and steered the country in whatever direction they pleased. But ultimately, they were on this ship with Ali Khamenei, and they believed it was he who wouldn't let them sink. That's why, under his cloak, they engaged in every kind of corruption and crime. But now that Ali Khamenei isn't there, everyone is trying in some way either to take control of this ship themselves or to prevent others from escaping it. That's why we're seeing a lot of conflicts now. At the very least, look, it's no joke. The Assembly of Experts, which, okay, maybe in practice, if we look at it, hasn't really done anything to, say, supervise the leader. But structurally, it's one of the most important structures of the Islamic Republic. I mean, from that segment, there are people who call themselves Marja and Ayatollah. They issue a statement, and then someone else issues a statement refuting them. It's the same in the IRGC, and a lot of other discussions are like that too. You can even see these disagreements in the presence of certain individuals. Aziz Jafari, Hossein Nejat, for example, they're a team. They're seen less often. Ahmad Vahidi comes out and shows off his power in the streets. I think what's happening is that these disagreements are increasing. Some are trying to reduce their distance from Mujtaba Khamenei, trying to get closer to him in any way they can. And then there are others. No, some have heard alarm bells. Some have felt that, no, on the contrary, instead of getting closer to Mujtaba Khamenei once before, and I still think this way, if Mujtaba Khamenei can establish himself, one of the first things he'll do is a massive purge. Mujtaba Khamenei is pursuing a strategy that mirrors exactly what his father did and what Ayatollah Khamenei initiated at the outset of the revolution to consolidate power. However, Mujtaba is arguably a tougher and more decisive figure than them, likely to operate much more openly. Evidence of this shift is already apparent. For example, Ali Asghar Hijazi, long considered the closest confidant to Ali Khamenei, is notably absent from this crucial assembly. In my opinion, as long as Mujtaba Khamenei fails to establish himself, and I sincerely hope he never will, these growing internal disagreements will only accelerate the disintegration of the Islamic Republic's core pillars, which are already visibly crumbling one after another.
Thank you, Jaber Rajabi, political analyst. The Dutch Parliament hosted a roundtable discussion on Iran an hour ago. This meeting was held at the initiative of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch House of Representatives, with the presence of human rights activists and political figures, to examine the current situation in Iran. In the most important part of this event, Prince Reza Pahlavi met and discussed with members of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch House of Representatives.
It was an important opportunity for me to engage with members of parliament in this country. We discussed the crucial support we anticipate from the free world, specifically diplomatic and humanitarian aid, with a particular focus on the Netherlands. Concurrently, I met with a representative from a dedicated segment of our Iranian community activists here. Our discussion centered on practical ways they can actively participate in this burgeoning movement, lending their voices to support the people of Iran in their struggle for fundamental rights. In any case, it was a valuable opportunity for us to exchange views. I sincerely hope that we can strengthen global attention, especially regarding the critical issue of internet connectivity. We must emphasize how truly vital this is for all kinds of information dissemination, including education, healthcare updates, and public safety announcements, and simultaneously for essential international coordination efforts. Since this occasion is primarily for presenting a brief summary to the press, I must clarify that this will not be a Q&A session. I genuinely hope we'll have another opportunity to engage more thoroughly with the media in the near future. Thank you very much.
Mehran Abbasian himself has joined us from The Hague. Mehran, tell us more about exactly what Prince Reza Pahlavi said and what kind of feedback his remarks received there.
Today, the Dutch parliament had dedicated a full day to the significant Iran for Iran meeting, emphasizing its importance. They invited prominent human rights activists, insightful researchers, and university professors seeking their expert perspectives. The extensive event comprised 4 different sections. Its first segment notably featured 2 Iranian-born university professors who currently teach at respected Dutch universities, offering unique insights. The next part specifically addressed the diverse ethnic groups within Iran. Iranian ethnic groups were invited to come here. The third part was about Abdullah Muhtadi, the Secretary General of the Kamala Party of Iranian Kurdistan. And the fourth part, which was a special part but behind closed doors, was about Prince Reza Pahlavi's meeting with the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch Parliament. Well, it's clear he himself summarized the meetings about how actually the representatives of the Dutch government's parliament can help the Iranian protesters, how in this path of transition from the Islamic Republic, the Dutch government and the Dutch parliament can stand alongside the people of Iran, alongside the opposition. Many of the Dutch parliament members who were present here today, their main question was that they now know very well what's going on in Iran. Almost all of them mostly talked about January 8th and 9th, about the massive massacre that has taken place in Iran, and they talked about how they can stand alongside the people of Iran. Many of those who participated here, including Prince Reza Pahlavi, said that issuing statements and condemning Western governments is no longer enough. They want practical solutions. From a pragmatic standpoint, governments must stand resolutely alongside the people of Iran. The prince himself, demonstrating clear commitment, met with both the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch Parliament and the Free Iran Committee. This significant committee, established by former Dutch politicians, garners strong support from Iranians. Currently, one of his advisors, Ms. Negin Nafisi, is my esteemed guest. Ms. Nafisi, you met with the prince today, were present in the meeting and personally witnessed a powerful gathering of thousands of Iranians. What are your immediate impressions? All these talks come back to one demand, ending the appeasement of Western governments. Now that we're talking about the Netherlands with the Islamic Republic. Today, what did you bring up in your meeting with the prince? And what demand did you, as an active committee, I know very well that the former foreign minister is the secretary of your committee, what demand did you put forward? And what did you actually say in this meeting with the prince?
That's right. We actually talked about what steps we, as Iranians outside of Iran, need to take so that we can actually compel governments and ask them to also look at human rights in Iran. And the prince pointed out a very good point, and that is how we should talk to them, and what we should ask for, and what we should say, which, well, I think this really helps us here, who want to try to figure out exactly what needs to be said, and where we need to do our work better. Well, actually, that was it.
Well, what do you think about such meetings or efforts that he wants to make? What should and shouldn't be done? Tell us more about these. Do you think in the coming months we will see an end to this appeasement of Western governments with the Islamic Republic?
That's right. We actually need to be able to tell the story that's actually happening in Iran here and bring the realities to light. Well, unfortunately, there are other groups here who try to, well, it could be from the Islamic regime itself, who try to make this difficult for us. And we need to stand firm and really get that story from the heart of Iran to the ears of the media or the ears of Dutch politicians. مدیا یا به گوش سیاستمداران. And alongside that, we need to stick to our demands and always really bring up human rights to them, because Europeans are very proud of human rights. And actually, this issue must also be addressed for Iranians.
I know your committee has made a lot of efforts for Prince Reza Pahlavi's presence. Tell us about your committee, the lobbying you're doing, the efforts you're making. Well, many members of your committee, including your committee secretary, have been former Dutch foreign ministers. Tell us very briefly what goals your committee pursues.
The goals our committee pursues. One was inviting Prince Reza Pahlavi to this country. The next goal is closing the Islamic Republic's embassies and listening to the words of Iranians who are really trying to convey the voice of Iran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, Fardad, today, simultaneously with this meeting, thousands of Iranians gathered in front of the Dutch parliament and a bit further away, meaning 2 rallies were held. People from various countries were here to both support a prince's presence and, as Ms. Nafisi said, they chanted various slogans demanding the closure of the Islamic Republic's embassy in the Netherlands. I saw on the brochures they prepared about the actions of the Islamic Republic, terrorist acts that just in the past year, again here, the Islamic Republic regime has carried out assassinations, and they are raising this demand. And definitely in my next programs, I've had interviews with the former foreign minister and a few representatives who also talk about their goals. It's definitely ready, and you can watch it.
Thank you, Mehran Abbasian, my colleague from The Hague. Amir Hossein Etemadi, a political activist, has also joined us. Mr. Etemadi, a few months ago, when the war had started between Iran, the United States, and Israel, well, hopes were much stronger for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic. But now, many of these powers, even European ones, including the Netherlands, are welcoming the negotiations that are underway between Iran and the US. In such an atmosphere, how much hope do you think there is for support from Western powers, especially the Europeans?
Look, the issue of overthrowing the Islamic Republic isn't something that's off the table, or that our perspective as an Iranian force, a force that actually wants to overthrow this regime, is tied to the decisions or views of the Europeans and Westerners. European governments, generally speaking, their track record over all these past few decades has been one of appeasing the Islamic Republic. That's a reality that can't be denied. But the million-strong presence, the million-strong uprising of the people, the national revolution of the people on January 8th and 9th, and the massacre the Islamic Republic unleashed, it has really changed perspectives. And that's why European governments, Western governments, are very much...
Yes, Mr. Etemadi, I really apologize. The sound quality is very bad, to the point where at least I can't hear your words very clearly. If you'll allow me, I'll disconnect the call for a few moments. My colleagues will try to reconnect with you with better quality, and we'll get back to you. Canada's National Security Threat Assessment Center has released a confidential document showing that Islamic Republic security agencies are recruiting local criminals to target Iranian dissidents and the Jewish community. The latest instance was the recent shooting incident in Toronto and the killing of a police officer in that city. Our reporter, Masa Mortazavi, is with us from Toronto with more details. Masa.
Yes, Fardad, this isn't the first time, of course, that we're covering this report. These shootings, which started in March, there was a period where all these buildings were being targeted. After that, with the arrest of Mohammed Bakr Dawood from Saedi, it became clear that given he's a member of a group called Kataib Hezbollah, and this member is affiliated with the Islamic Republic, and he was the mastermind behind the attack on the U.S. consulate and one of the synagogues here in Toronto, the likelihood of the Islamic Republic's involvement and covert presence in sensitive cases here has consistently increased. However, this marks the first definitive time Global News has been able to confirm this. This was achieved by obtaining a crucial top-secret document from ITEC, Canada's dedicated agency that critically assesses international threats within its borders, unequivocally confirming the Islamic Republic's active role in these operations. The confidential report further states that in at least one specific instance, it's definitively clear that foreign forces carried out this clandestine act, and it has also confirmed the probable involvement of Islamic Republic intelligence agencies. Of course, it's been said that the main threat comes from those who carry out radical and autonomous terrorist acts, but it has linked these series of cases together. But what happened here in Toronto? A series of threats and a series of shootings occurred against buildings in March, and these were all targeted. In fact, you could say that these all conveyed a single message. Shootings at synagogues, which are Jewish centers, the U.S. consulate, which, well, is affiliated with America, and the office of Salar Ghalami, a political activist based in Toronto, has seen both himself and his sports club targeted by gunfire in a series of disturbing incidents. Each shooting followed a remarkably consistent pattern. Young individuals would exit speeding vehicles, brazenly filming with one hand as they discharged continuous shots at the buildings. It's understood that following these violent acts, the perpetrators would transmit the captured video footage directly to their employers. What has become increasingly clear is that these are not random occurrences. Agencies affiliated with the Revolutionary Guard or the Islamic Republic were actually recruiting these individuals, then receiving these videos and paying them, which, as I said, has been confirmed by Global News for the first time.
همونطور که گفتم توسط شبکه گلوبال نیوز تایید شده.
Thank you, Masa Mortazavi, our reporter from Toronto, for being with us. Our connection with Amir Hossein Etemadi has been re-established. I hope the quality is better this time. I apologize to you too, Mr. Etemadi. I was asking you this. It seems like it's one step forward, two steps back, after this war that's now leading to negotiations. How much hope can there really be in such circumstances for aid from Western countries, especially the Europeans?
I hope you can hear me better now. Look, when it comes to the Europeans, generally speaking, their policy towards the Islamic Republic over the past few decades has always been hesitant and inconsistent, and their fundamental approach has been how to actually reach an agreement with the Islamic Republic, how to control this regime, or they even had this illusion that they could change its behavior through concessions, through appeasement. But today's issue, after the Lion and Sun National Revolution, the uprising, especially on January 8th and 9th, and the massacre committed by the Islamic Republic, it's no longer as easy as before, even for these appeasing European governments, to want to reach an agreement with a regime that killed at least 40,000 of our compatriots in just 2 days. What I see from the situation is that compared to before, in any case, in these very meetings where Prince Reza Pahlavi has been today in the Netherlands, in places in Germany, in other countries, the Europeans' view, at least among the lawmakers, their own legislation has changed significantly, and they completely empathize. They stand with the people of Iran, with their demands, with regime change. They deeply comprehend that the pervasive issue of the Islamic Republic will never be resolved without the complete overthrow of this regime. This understanding is rooted in the constant instability it generates regionally, coupled with the sheer violence and terror the Islamic Republic has undeniably exported to European soil. For instance, in the Netherlands alone, this regime has repeatedly committed assassinations and carried out terrorist acts, showcasing its global reach. Recognizing these grave threats, they believe action is essential. However, the pivotal question for them remains focused on the precise strategic direction the United States of America, as the primary global power in this intricate situation, will ultimately pursue. And I think this, more than anything, needs to be considered. And I personally don't imagine that the current US government can get anywhere with the Islamic Republic. Maybe it wants to temporarily postpone this issue a bit, but ultimately it has no choice but to accept the overthrow of this Islamic Republic as the solution, which is also what the Iranian people want.
During the fervent protests before the war and consistently throughout the conflict, Prince Reza Pahlavi garnered significant public support, evident in public demonstrations. However, despite this clear grassroots momentum, the statements and actions of Western countries, notably the United States, have yet to reflect meaningful support for his cause. How significantly do you believe this apparent international ambivalence complicates his position, especially as crucial negotiations for Iran's future are ongoing? Given your closeness to him, what concrete measures could Prince Reza Pahlavi proactively implement to effectively attract more international support and backing for his vital mission?
Look, Prince Reza Pahlavi himself has said this many times. He is not seeking the support or endorsement of any foreign government. What he is seeking is to attract the support of foreign governments, especially democratic governments, whether in America, in Europe, or in the region, like the country of Israel, so that how they can support the people of Iran, the revolution of the people of Iran. As a national leader, the prince's power comes from the power of the Iranian people. He doesn't need a foreign government to give him legitimacy. This, I think, everyone should actively pay attention to. The role Prince Reza Pahlavi envisions for himself, its fundamental legitimacy comes exclusively from the people of Iran. This is a critical point. But all his extensive efforts, I referred to his various travels to many countries, serve to advocate for his vision. He recently, in the midst of the Russia-Ukraine war, went to a very real war zone. This was a region, Odessa, where I myself was with him just the day before. Critically, Odessa port had been attacked by Russia, and Russia had a definite plan to attack that very night we were there. I mean to say, for him, being able to attract more allies for the people of Iran is a priority, and he is even willing to risk his life for this. Therefore, the things he does, I think a significant part of it goes back to the people of Iran, who have shown that they called his name, even gave their lives, of course, for the freedom of Iran, but anyway, in solidarity and in support of him, and this is very valuable. And all his efforts, and ours in his team, are that these lives that have been sacrificed, we at least finally achieve a result, and their families, who in these very meetings, including today, in the Netherlands, one of the families, the sister of one of the martyrs, was present there, at least finds some peace of mind with freedom.
But to achieve this result, some tools are also needed, right? Isn't that so? I know there's millions of support inside Iran. These are soft power. But to exert influence and bring about change in a government that is willing to kill thousands, tens of thousands of people in 2 nights, it also needs hard power tools, doesn't it? Whether it's foreign support, which you say he's not really seeking, but ultimately it naturally helps, whether it helps physically.
Seeking foreign support for Iran. Foreign support for the people of Iran. I just want to correct your statement. Foreign support for the people of Iran is naturally part of his mission, that they want foreign support for the people of Iran. I said that he is not seeking a foreign power to give him legitimacy. That's not the kind of legitimacy he needs at all. But you're right, look, the prince's entire strategy, its 5 pillars, one of which is maximum support for the people of Iran, is actually the main topic of his discussions with all Western lawmakers, statesmen, and politicians. Starting with the internet issue, for example, a lot of work has been pursued this very week, in recent weeks, to find alternative solutions. And then there are other issues, like the diplomatic pressure on the Islamic Republic to stop executions, and the issue of political prisoners. So a part of the prince's work in these trips is to emphasize issues where, coincidentally, some European governments, when they say, what can we do, at least a clear solution or clear strategies are presented to them. The prince's extensive trips are instrumental in cultivating maximum support among the Iranian people. Although the Islamic Republic undeniably remains in power, its authority has significantly eroded, making it much weaker. A stark example of this internal fragility is that its supreme leader, their spiritual guide, was only laid to rest after an astonishing 4-month delay, clearly indicating profound organizational challenges within the regime. This is the peak of a government's weakness, that its previous leader couldn't bury his body for 4 months. And finally, with permission from the US government, they were given a week to do it. And its current leader, if he's even alive, which we don't know, he's missing. These are not signs of a government that has remained in power or has survival and longevity. These are signs of like terrorist groups, like Hezbollah, like Hamas. These are, in fact, signs of a small group, a paramilitary group, that is in power in Iran today. And we will continue this struggle until the overthrow of the Islamic Republic. We are with the people, we support them. And Shah Reza Pahlavi, as he said, we will not stop this struggle until victory is achieved.
Thank you, Amir Hussein Itamadi, political activist, and thank you for watching 24 tonight.